Third place was, of course, Lewis Hamilton. Into the first corner, Verstappen was away like a scolding cat. He was fast, fast, fast. No way anybody was catching him. And of course, that left Bottas and Lewis Hamilton to scrap for second place. Lewis managed to get Bottas round the outside, mainly because Bottas was locking up all the time in what undoubtedly was a difficult situation for him. His tyres seemed to be a little colder. Maybe his warm up was less successful than Hamilton. Nonetheless, Hamilton managed to get him around the outside of turn two and into three, and then he was away after Verstappen. Couldn't overtake Verstappen, managed to catch him, stay on his tail, but couldn't catch up. Had brake issues with overheating, so couldn't steer too far behind Verstappen. This led to then a split after a while of strategy where Mercedes had an easy decision, I felt, to call Lewis in, put soft tyres on, and run into the end of the race on a faster pace, hopefully allowing him to catch Verstappen, which is, of course, what eventually happened. I think because Lewis was catching up so quick, Verstappen probably used his tyres a little more than he needed to. They didn't last to the end of the race, and it was, in the end, an easy overtake, 4 laps from the end, and for Lewis to win the race. A fantastic try by Verstappen. A little bit inexperienced in that he couldn't keep his tyres in, and maybe in hindsight he probably would have done slightly differently. But a great strategy call by Mercedes, although a relatively easy one when you're in second place. It's much easier to make those kind of calls than if you're actually leading the race. So, fantastic race. Fabio, what did you think of the race? And is there any comments you'd like to make on Lewis Hamilton winning Formula One?
Boring. Jesus, what a boring fucking race. Was insane. Yeah, I mean, yeah, good guy. Yeah, good girl. What the fuck happened? I mean, yeah, Lewis won. It was probably the only one which could win a race like that. Let me rephrase that. Lewis
Probably the only one.
won because of the strategy. So the team won, and he won because of Bottas. But I got to say that he was the only one which could win a race like that. He won because of Bottas, because Bottas was the first one which put, the white tires, so he knew they knew exactly how they were going to degrade, so they had good data. They made an interesting call. They made a call at a very good moment because by that time it was too late for Verstappen to react, because if he was going back in the pit, it would have been past. Lewis would have been past him, basically in the pits. So the timing was good. They had all the data, and I think they were only able to do that because Lewis, drove a very nice race. Now the funny thing is that Lewis had to be convinced that he was going to win the race, because he was never going to believe it up until, I don't know, 15 laps from the end. He was, all over the place, flailing his arms. What did you do? Ha ha! Maybe the Reds were better, and the guys were telling, yeah, shut the fuck up, do your job, drive, do that, So yeah, so he did. He drove really well, and he won the race. So good job to the pits in Mercedes. Good job to Bottas, and yeah, I mean Lewis, drove very fast, admittedly, and he drove. The other interesting thing is that Hamilton has been pining for a fight with somebody in the track. He got the fight, and he just couldn't, I mean, he just couldn't pass the guy with the fight. So he won with the strategy. Again, cool. It's part of F1 races, so I'm fine with that. But he didn't really won because of the fight, and that was he has been asking for, since I don't know, since the beginning of this year, and the end of last year. So that was a little bit disappointing. He tried. I mean, when he went in corner, I think it was corner four. I mean, it was me and my kid. We were watching that. He tried to go the outside, and we were just, okay, what the fuck is he going to do? And of course, it was. I mean, he didn't even try to make the corner. I mean, it was very smart. He just, kept the steering wheel straight. And me and my son, we just watched and say, I don't know what the fuck he was going to do there because he took that corner like twice the speed of the other guy. So I would have been really amazed if he did that because if he managed to do that, I mean, why the fuck all the other guys were driving so slow?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but he tried. He failed, and he won the race. So a victory is a victory. No problems about that. It was just a little bit. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. I mean, again, I think that's a pretty typical Hungary race. You don't get much overtaking in Hungary at the best of times unless you're
yeah.
Michael Schumacher charging from the back in wet conditions, right? You're not going to get a lot of buggy overtaking. So,
Oh, by the
in,
way, I forgot to tell you. I won 45 euros.
on what? Saying Lewis Hamilton would win the race?
No, on the pole.
Oh, and oh, wow,
Yeah.
40 euros. My word.
I think it was given. Well, Verstappen was something like 3-1. So it was
Not
15 euros. Yeah, 45. Yeah, cool. So good job, Verstappen. I loved it.
bad. I see. Okay, okay. So you didn't think a Ferrari could do it then, no?
Oh no, 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 not at all. I mean, they were so far beyond. They had no. Well, I mean, they had the speed, but the speed in the corner was really slow. I look a little bit at the data, and I mean that race for Ferrari was really, really a mess. I mean, I think that they tried to do whatever the fuck they tried to do with the car. The car is not a good car. I mean, it's not a wreck, okay?
Yeah,
Because the car might have won some races. Canada, Abu Dhabi. I mean, there were some races that because of the rain, because of the strategy, stuff like that, which is not an excuse. It's an explanation, and I'll go back to that later. They might have won. So the car is not totally shit, but it's not a good car overall, and that's a problem because if you if you have a car which allows you to win only some races, and in order for you to win those races, you got to have a good strategy. It must not rain and all this stuff. The limit is so close that the car is not good enough at all.
for sure.
They,
Yeah.
yeah, I saw some data and it was kind of scary because if you take, I took the average of the lap times from Lewis, okay, and I took the average of the lap time. I can't remember if it was Vettel or Leclerc. I think Vettel because at the end, yeah, Vettel because it was faster than Leclerc, of course. And if if you make the average lap and the average lap, it was 1.2 seconds a lap
Yeah.
slower,
Yeah.
which is insane.
Yeah. Although, again, this is a specific track which doesn't suit the philosophy that the car was designed to. But again, we pointed this out at the beginning of the season, both of us did, which is the front wing design, is very different. And it does seem to me that all of those that went with a low front wing design at the beginning of the season have now suffering quite a lot. And those that went with the high wing design have actually seemed to have done a lot better over the season. So yeah, maybe that'll turn around. I mean, obviously Ferrari are hoping that they'll win Monza because you don't, aero efficiency is the name of the game there rather than pure downforce. But someone was explaining, and probably Nico Rosberg was explaining that they can't just suddenly change the front wing to a different design
Yeah,
because it affects all of the rest of the back of the
right.
car.
It's yeah. I
So
mean,
they're going to lose so much downforce by doing that. There's no point in just trying to get more front end downforce alone
yeah.
because they'll lose a lot of the back.
I mean, listen.
So,
The two approaches, the in-wash and the outwash.
yeah,
There is no clear winner on that. it's not a problem of in-wash and out-wash. The problem is that you build a car around a concept. And I'm by the way, for example, I'm still convinced that the in-wash, strategy is not that bad. If you see the speed of, the Alphas compared to, the Force India, for example,
Mm.
so we are comparing to, to B teams with semi-official engines. I think it's a fair comparison. And the Alphas just, they just run circles around the Force India. So
Mm.
I don't think that the problem is the concept of the front wing. It is just what you do about the concept of the old car. And I think that there are problems. For example, I'm not really sure that that the Red Bull is a totally outwashed car. For example,
Right. Yeah, that's a fair comment. I think that is one of the mid cars, right? But it seems to me that the Haas, all of the in-wash cars seem to me to have front end issues, and so on the tracks where you'd expect them mostly to be dominating.
Well,
Uh,
okay, but let's say for example, let's take a really shitty
but,
driver with a very
but
good car.
say that this is also driver dependent,
Yeah, no,
right?
so
Kimi can make the exception in the Alpha, in my view. But carry on.
right, no. So let me make just this example, okay, about something that we missed from the video, from the TV show, the TV, race.
Mhm.
Let's take a very good car with a really crappy driver and a very good driver, which, well, I would say a crappy car, but, with a yeah car. And I'm talking about Bottas with the Mercedes and Raikkonen with the Alfa. Okay? The reason I'm saying that is that I am supremely pissed because from what I've been told from people on the track, the last lap was something epic, like, our Villeneuve kind of shit, wheel to wheel kind of stuff between Rosberg and Kimi, because they were really there. I mean, you can see
Sorry,
the
Rosberg, you don't mean.
no, sorry, Bottas
Mhm.
and Kimi. They had the last lap just to die for, and Kimi anyway got in front of Bottas.
Mm.
So it's not always that easy, It's not that the car is so much superior. It is also the thing. It's like you remember when Kimi was driving for Lotus, and Lotus wasn't a really good car, but he had a really firm front end, which is what he liked, and he was making miracles with that car because it suited his driving style. It's like Leclerc and Vettel. I think that the car suits a little bit more Vettel than Leclerc. I mean, but they're driving fast both, But Vettel,
Mm.
in the long run, has an advantage because he can exploit the car a little bit better. And by the way, I mean, at the end, Leclerc had to save fuel. That's
Okay.
not a very. I mean, that engine is very good, but that the consumption, the fuel consumption is something that they've been working on, but they still haven't got all of it. And I think that you employ more fuel because you got to work over the problem of the car. It's probably spinning too much and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, from that aspect, the race was interesting, but as I said, to me, it was really boring. I mean, you really have to dig, to find the interesting thing. Everything but science. Science was fucking brilliant.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
fifth time with the McLaren, is the first of the others, right?
yeah. Absolutely. I mean, he finished ahead of Gasly, so
Yeah.
I mean that's a damn good race right there. But Science, I kind of expect this from Science. He's always been a very consistent driver. So
Yeah,
and
science, science is
now he's
great.
on top of his car. I would expect that to continue to the end of the season. It's just a development race that they're talking about in the midfield now.
No, but
Um,
science is I think it's a very interesting driver. And by the way, it's about time that he managed to do something good. He started his career with Verstappen, right? So he's not a youngster anymore. That guy delivers, so he has to deliver. But I like the way that his mind works because I don't know how he does that, but he's very efficient in the race,
Mm.
which is something that it fits the McLaren really well. They need points, they need to bring the car ahead, and so I think they found, he is the top driver. Everybody gave him, they're faithful in him, so he feels, considered, and he delivers. So yeah, good job to him.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, he's a lovely old man, so I'm always going to be a science supporter. I do feel that, well, yeah, I mean, we'll just have to see how it goes with development because
Mm.
really that's what it comes down to with that McLaren is can they develop enough towards the end of the year to keep the progress either steady or the gap closing to Red Bull?
Right.
And can Red Bull get Gasly to drive that car fast enough that they can beat the McLaren? Again, I predicted that Gasly wouldn't last till the end of the year, mainly on the reason that if he can't keep up with Verstappen, then he's going to have problems justifying his position in the team, and therefore he's going to be overtaken by the teams coming up behind him. I don't think that Red Bull's going to get much more development now to the end of the year in relation to the Mercedes, because it's probably already out there at the end, at the top end of its development.
Oh,
Whether
they're
that
gonna
happens or
they're
not,
gonna suffer at the end because they've already they've already used a lot of parts for the engine. So I'm expecting they will take a lot of penalties, from now to the end of the season,
mm,
which is, it was to be expected. They had to make a season like that.
yeah,
Because they had to deliver, they had to make some points, they had to put Honda on the podium. It's and I totally get it. I understand it. It's you have to build the drive, in order for you, to gain momentum. So and then it's a lot easier, to roll the ball. But you have to build momentum, and sometimes you have to sacrifice something.
yeah. I mean, again, worth saying that Red Bull have said that they're going to keep both drivers to the end of the year now. So Gasly should feel confident. But then this is Red Bull we're talking about, and they are very results orientated. So we'll have to see how the results keep on cracking in,
Yeah, but
especially.
but that's an interesting point, and I was thinking about yesterday, Red Bull has been one of the first teams to have a long line of young drivers. They've been racing drivers from they were very young, and they've been the first to do that. I think now they've got a problem because let's say that they sack Gasly, for some reason. Who are you going to put there? Not Kvyat, because nobody likes Kvyat. No, yeah, I mean, nobody does that.
Yeah, but he's a changed man. He's a changed man on his second career.
Yeah,
He's much more. He's less. You know what I mean? What
yeah.
was that? It's what Verline. He's less Verline than
No,
he
but
used.
it's serious. I mean, they have a big problem because Mercedes have got Ocon on the line, and by the way, they will probably sack Bottas at the end of the year and take Ocon. Ferrari has got Leclerc, which opens another interesting thing because I think it's in 2020 there are three contracts which expire, which are really interesting because Lewis contract is going to expire, Verstappen contract is going to expire, and Vettel contract is going to expire. So I think that next year, if you're still alive, this time of the year would be really, really, really interesting. There'd be, some really interesting stuff.
Yes, maybe you're correct there. I have a feeling Lewis will resign with Mercedes. I don't see why he would want to go anywhere else. And obviously, I think Mercedes would be foolish to let him go to another team.
Yeah,
So
unless unless he really wants to win a championship with Ferrari.
Sure, I don't think he's that keen for it.
I,
Bearing in mind that Alonso left because Ferrari kept finishing second.
Oh, but yeah,
That's
but
it.
that's something which the drivers they just don't give a fuck. Actually, this is something that they like more because yeah, I mean just figure that okay, you are Lewis Hamilton, okay, you've won 5 or 6 world championships because this year is going to win the world championship. There's no way around it, okay.
Probably, yeah.
So you won 5 or 6 world championships. Everybody has been telling you, and you know it, and I would say it's partially true, that you won them with a with a with a so much superior car that it wasn't really you. Well, yeah, it was you, but you had that car, okay? And just put no. But regardless if it's true or not, just try to put in the
It doesn't
mind.
matter. It may well be true. It just doesn't matter. When
No,
you
no,
pictured it,
no. Listen,
Schumacher won 7, and Lewis has got to win 8. That's
uh, Schumacher won a championship before with Benetton. He could
yeah,
always say that.
he won 2, right?
Yeah,
And likewise, Lewis won, yeah, with McLaren. Okay, so
yeah.
we're not worried. I don't think he's worried about winning with multiple teams. He just wants the
Listen,
number.
I'm just saying that this is a mental process that might happen.
Okay.
So this has happened. Okay, now Ferrari, they had Alonso and he failed to win a world championship. They have Vettel, he failed to win a world championship. I mean, what if I go there and I win the world championship, right? So I would have done better than Alonso, than Vettel, than all the guys, and I'm going to win the world championship with that car that everybody loves because it's a fact. I'm not just I don't give 2 fucks about the cars, but I mean I'm just stating fact. So I would not exclude that, but for the fact that I'm not really sure that Ferrari wants Lewis on the car.
Okay, and that's fair enough. I don't think it's an issue about him beating Vettel or Alonso. I think in his mind he's already done that. He's the best driver of the generation. I think what he's interested in is beating Schumacher. That seems to be his goal. And there's only one way he can do that, and that's to win more world titles than Schumacher won.
No, but
And to do that, I mean, I'm not saying that he wouldn't want to go to Ferrari and win a world title there because that would be fantastic. But I don't think. I think if he has a choice to stay with Mercedes, okay, that's the most likely thing he will do
no, but
because that would guarantee him at least the 7th world title to equal Schumacher. Then maybe he could think about going, well, I could go and get one at Ferrari, and then I really would be the greatest.
yeah, but listen, what I'm just saying is that there are some mental process that are really weird because I remember when Rossi went to Ducati, and Rossi went to Ducati after Casey Stoney won the championship, and everybody thought that the reason that Casey Stoney won the championship was because the bike was so much superior. Okay, so Rossi went to Ducati, and keep in mind that Rossi tried. They had talks about going in Ducati like 3 or 4 years prior to that, and he said no. And he went to Ducati because he thought that was the right bike to be. He thought that the bike was so much better, and it actually was. It was Casey which was able to drive it that way, and was the only one.
Mhm.
And he thought to himself, if I'm going to win a world championship with an Italian bike, I mean, I can die the following day. Fuck Giacomo Agostini. I mean, fuck everybody. I'm going to be, they're going to make me fucking Pope.
Mm.
That was his mental process, and he got burned really bad. But, regardless, he made that. Now, if somebody like Valentino Rossi goes through that mental process, I'm not excluding that someone like Lewis Hamilton goes through the same mental process. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and again, I don't think I think he would probably like to do that in an ideal world, but just like he took the hit to go from McLaren to Mercedes a year earlier than where he knew he wasn't going to get any results or a title. I think he's just so focused on the long term, getting that number, especially as he gets, he'll be on 6, so it's just one more to match the 7, right? And I just think that's his only goal. And yes, again, I completely grant if he could do it at Ferrari, that would be a fantastic thing, and he'd be a worldwide hero rather than just a hero
Right, right.
on a certain side, right? But
It's
again, you could do that the year after, right? Uh,
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a weird word. I mean, well, the year after, that might be the case. That's what I think. There might not be a year after because I don't
I,
know what they're going to sign for. They might have a contract which goes too ahead for him. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying that. Listen, regardless of what is going to happen, I just say what I said before. I think that next year, this time of the year, is going to be really funny.
yeah, I mean, for sure, the silly season next year
Yeah,
is going to be
yeah,
it's going to be intense, no doubt.
yeah,
Especially with all the rule changes coming up, and there
yeah,
should in theory be a premium on good racing drivers.
yeah.
So it should really focus on the likes of Vettel. Not so much Verstappen, I've got to say. Although he's changed his driving a lot this year and last year. So maybe he has actually learnt the lessons about keeping his nose clean and not pushing too much in the middle of a fight, which seems to me the requisite you need for to be a great Formula One driver.
I don't know.
Uh,
I think yes. But sometimes I really don't understand Lewis. I mean, he's a blazing fast driver. No, nobody in his right mind is going to deny that. But sometimes I really do not understand the guy. He's pushing for some things, and it seems to be that when they don't happen, he feels really more down that you were supposed to be. I
yeah,
don't think he's still really, really strong enough. And I'm not. Uh, I mean, you know me. I'm not saying that I hope that this happens, right?
mm,
But I'm not really sure how he's going to react when things goes really bad. I'm
sure.
still struggling with that, and not because it's not fast, but it's because when that happens, it's not a problem of you being fast or not. It's a problem of your mental attitude, and I still see the guy that, I mean, he's won everything, and his brother, okay, he has been, but when he was beaten by Rosberg, it looked like that they killed his father. Which probably at the time it would have been, it would not have been that sad at the time, right? So he's weird. That guy is really weird.
Yeah, I agree. I think, but again, I'm not amazed, right? I mean, like, when I think of Vettel in the middle of his 4 world titles, right? He was also extremely emotional
Yeah,
outside of the car. And I think that just happens to somebody that's that focused on winning world titles, right? Because he doesn't even get a chance. I mean, there's probably not a single week in the year where he can really sit down and focus on something different or go, wow, yeah, I'm doing really well. No, it's all about every time I get there, I've got to look like I'm the man. I've got to look like I'm doing this. I've got to appearances, everything. Any slight weakness that I show will get. Do you know what I mean? And
no,
that
I
kind
know, I
of
know, I know,
builds and builds.
I
And I
know.
and I agree with you in that I think if he loses or swaps team to a less successful team, and he's got to work a bit harder to get the car to do what he needs,
Right,
that's going to be a problem for him, just like it is for Vettel,
right.
right?
No,
Vettel
but
came from
yeah,
great success where everything was kind of like, yeah, I know exactly what I'm doing. I know where I've got to be, when I've got to be. I know how hard to
right.
push and how the car's going to be set up for me. I know the people that I can rely on. I can, when they have a little inflection in their voice, I know what they mean. And all of that's gone, right? And he's
Right,
got
right.
car which is performing. And now what does he do, right? Well, he cracks, right?
No, yeah, but you're right. And
Now he's coming back, and it's taken a bit of time.
yeah, but you made a fair comparison with Vettel. When he started being slapped in the face, and we know that it went really down. We know that. But it's also true that the guy kind of bounced in a way, and he bounced this year with a car which is really inferior compared, to previous year car. Compare, with the
Yeah.
it is less winning than the other car. Let me put it this way: it's not as performing as the other car, but I think he has bounced, and in the way that a four-time world championship does. So I've got this material. I'm going to extract everything I can from the stuff that I have. That's the reaction I'm expecting from a driver which has his head firmly screwed, on his neck.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, like, again, I would expect at those tracks where he thinks he's got a chance that he's going to be back to the old Vettel,
Yeah,
almost unbeatable.
right.
Uh,
And
that's Monza, and I'm really looking forward to Monza.
no,
By
no,
the way, I
no.
think
And the only thing I'm saying is that uh,
fantastic race.
no, I'm sorry about that. And just to be clear, because I don't want to be, that guy. I'm not saying that this is not going to happen to Lewis. Maybe he's going to bounce back faster than Vettel. I don't know. What I'm
Mhm.
just saying is that I haven't seen him taking punches in the face constantly and repeatedly. So I honestly don't know how he's going to react.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's a fair comment. I would point to 2008 where he threw away the championship and came back the next year to fight, had to fight hard with what I didn't consider was the best car and win the championship, I think. So, I don't think his fighting qualities are in doubt. Then again, he went to Mercedes in a year where he knew the car would underperform and was patient enough to, um, you know, he was patient enough to get through that year, right? Knowing that the next year, with the reg changes, it was all going to come to him. So I think he's patient enough. I think that's why he's 6 times world championship,
It,
because
it,
he's got those two qualities in abundance.
I mean, to be fair, it wasn't mad as a bet, right? Because even when he went to Mercedes
Oh, no.
and he waited, I mean, he saw the structure that it was behind Mercedes, so he knew that something good would have come. And let me be clear: it is not a given that something good comes from a very big organization. I'm thinking about Toyota, for example, in recent years.
Sure.
Toyota put, I think that pound for pound has been in recent year the company which has put way more money than everybody else to get in F1 from the beginning. They
Mm.
just made an immense investment, and the return was shite. So
Yeah.
it is not a
Absolutely.
given that that would have
Absolutely.
happened with Mercedes,
Yeah,
but
no,
it's always better, than going, like with I don't know, even Red Bull, for example,
yeah, no, it was a risk in that, he took a calculated risk,
Mm.
but I don't think it was a huge risk at all. But I
Right.
bear in mind two things. Firstly, Mercedes are an engine manufacturer, and the regulations were definitely going to favour an engine manufacturer. Secondly, turbos were being introduced,
Right.
and that's notoriously difficult to get turbos right. So that's another side for which Mercedes had a really good track record. But I agree with you that it wasn't a foregone thing. I remember back to my team, Williams,
Hmm.
in about 2000, signed a deal with BMW.
Yeah.
And at the time, BMW had the best endurance engine
Yeah.
going on the market. And everything favored BMW coming in and really slaying the competition. And I thought to myself when Williams made that deal, wow, this is going to be incredible. I can't wait for them to get the BMW engine. What happens when that comes in? BMW suddenly are nowhere, and the Williams was nowhere.
Right.
I say nowhere. That was the beginning of their downfall. So,
Hmm.
and of course they split with BMW. Within 4 years, I think, even though they had like a multi-year deal,
Yeah.
3 years maybe. So, you're right. Even the best engine manufacturer at the time, BMW was. Um, if they don't understand and put the full resources into Formula One development wise, right, then that's not going to happen.
Mm.
And of course, how much money did Honda put
Oh
in?
yeah, fuck
I
me.
mean, Jesus, billions, right? And of course, they backed out the year before the team became a world champion.
Right.
So
Yeah.
timing is everything as well,
Yeah.
and that's something that Lewis does really have, I think, in spades. His timing is damn good. He's been really lucky in his career to just hit the teams at their peaks. So even if he goes to Ferrari, I would expect that to be the same.
Yeah,
But
I mean, and there is also a thing about the great champions that they one of the characteristics that they have is that they smell the young blood competition. They smell who is the one which are going to kill them.
mm,
So even if I said before that, I think is a lot of the things he's saying. I think he's doing that because he wants to build an expectation because of media and all that stuff. I also think that there might be some kind of truth when he's talking about Verstappen and Leclerc and and these people,
yeah,
uh, because again, when Prost knew that Senna was the guy which was going to kill him, right? Senna knew that Schumacher was probably the guy which was going to, to end his career, and so on. And Alonso did the same with Vettel, so and so on and so on. That's a characteristic of the big champions. They see what's coming and they know exactly who is going to be the guy which is going to to just
mm,
destroy them in the future. So I think there is that. I don't like the way he does because I think that I mean in in saying that right now, I think it's a little bit too, how can I say, it's too flamboyant, I mean, really, yeah. I mean, yeah. You're gonna say, yeah, Verstappen, yeah, I want to fight Leclerc, I want to fight. I mean, you know that they don't have the material, to properly
Well,
fight with you.
good experience. I mean, I've got to say that the moves that Leclerc made on Bottas,
Yeah,
right, to cut him off going into turn four, there was no need to do that.
right.
Bottas would have slowed down himself because he couldn't take the corner at that angle. So that move across the track that Leclerc made was completely unnecessary,
I mean, I mean,
and risked his own race. I mean, he literally risked his own race by doing that.
I
And those kind of mistakes you cannot get away with on a what's the word, on a consistent basis. If you're going to make mistakes like that, there's no way you're going to make it through the year without a few punches. And that's all it takes to lose a championship, as we know
Uh,
from.
I mean, I agree with what you said, but for one thing, it
Mhm.
was Bottas. I mean, I couldn't give two fucks about the guy. If somebody, if Grosjean crashes into him, I just don't care. No, but you're right. I was just joking. No, you're right. You got a point. I'm just saying that that really Lewis, trying to taunt Leclerc and Verstappen now is kind of a cheap shot, because you know that on a race it's going to take something beyond the fact that they are fast and and young and whatever to actually beat you. And for example, I mean, and the Hungary race, on Sunday is the proof of what I said, right? I mean, uh, I said at the beginning, I was kind of joking that he won because of the strategy and Bottas, but
Mm,
there is some truth in that. He was able to achieve that result because he's part of a package where
mm,
he is an excellent driver, but he has a package which is way superior than the other. It allows him to take risks that the other cannot simply take. Because I'm positive that if the things were reversed, like Lewis ahead and Verstappen at the second, and Verstappen did the same thing that Lewis did, he would not have won anyway. You know what I mean?
no,
Because
I disagree with that. I mean, I think Bottas. I mean, if Lewis hadn't overtaken Bottas at the first corner, then for sure, or
no, no,
whatever.
no, no.
Hang on. Then for sure, I don't think Lewis would have won the race,
No,
right?
I'm talking about the last 20 laps when Lewis stopped and changed the tire, and he
Yeah.
was able to win because of that. Because they knew
But
how much the white
yeah,
tire was going to last, and they
yeah.
have good data
No,
about that. But
no, no, Fabio, no, Fabio. That I disagree with. All right. Lewis won because of the pressure that was put on Verstappen, and Verstappen outdrove his tires. If Verstappen had not, right, if Verstappen had gone, oh, hang on a minute, I can't drive, I need them to last this many laps, therefore I can only do this lap time, right? Then potentially, by the time Lewis would have caught up, then,
you
maybe Verstappen still would have been going fast enough not to have enough
no,
of a gap for Lewis to
no, no,
overtake.
no, no, but
Potentially, I mean, this is all in
no,
theory,
but
right?
stop a minute, because um, I don't want you to say things that I didn't. Uh, Lewis, I mean, that race could have been won only by Lewis Hamilton in that way. There is no doubt about it, because
No, I
because
disagree.
well, I mean, I
Agree.
think so. Because I think he's the only driver right now which is able to put such consistent pace and put so much pressure. The reason why they were able to do that is because Mercedes and the pit had enough data to say we can do that, and we can do that because we have Lewis. So that package was sorted in such a way that they could take that gamble and have reasonable expectation to get at the end in that way. I am not sure that if the part were reversed, so if Lewis was ahead and Verstappen was second, at the time that they had to change the tires, like the last 20 laps, and Red Bull decided to play the same gamble,
Mhm.
I am quite positive that Verstappen would not have won the race, because he's not the kind of driver which can put so much pressure consistently. And there is also the fact that the way that the tires are used by Mercedes are way different than the way that they're used by Red Bull. So I don't think that at the end, uh, if they went on with the white tires, Lewis would have had tires in so badly performing as the one that Verstappen had. So this is the only thing I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm not taking away anything from Lewis.
No, 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 that's not what I was doing either.
Okay.
Uh, I was just saying that I think it was Verstappen lost the race, not Lewis necessarily won the race. I mean, the strategy was a great strategy, and it was likely to work, right? Mercedes judged it well in that they knew that Lewis could run pretty much flat out till the end of the race from where they pitted. So they waited long enough to allow Lewis to be able to do that. I think Kimi could have done the same thing. I think Leclerc could have done the same thing. I'm not so sure about Vettel, but pretty much Vettel. I think quite a few drivers could have run that same race that Lewis ran. What lost the race for Verstappen, I think, is that he used his tyres up, right? And it was a close thing, right? So again, I don't think it's necessarily Verstappen's fault in that way. It's a fault of a bad driving or
Well,
whatever. I think he did the best he could. But if he managed to keep his tyres in for just a couple more laps, maybe Lewis could not have got past him, right?
uh,
But when the
I,
tyres ran out, they dropped off significantly in that last period. Okay, now why did they drop off significantly? Because they should have made it to the end of the race. Okay, but the reason being is because Verstappen had to drive faster because he was under pressure. And so he was out driving those tires and taking too much life out of them. If he'd slowed down by, say, half a second a lap, Lewis would have caught him earlier, but he would have been doing a faster lap time. And maybe, and it's a huge maybe, all right, Lewis wouldn't have been able to get by because he would have got into dirty air and all the problems, etc., etc. Now, that's just pure speculation on my part. I've got no idea whether that's the case or not.
mhm.
Maybe even driving half a second a lap slower, Verstappen would have still run out of tyres, and it would have made no difference to the result whatsoever. But I do think it was because Verstappen ran out of grip that Lewis got past him, rather than Lewis had more grip because he was on a fresher tyre or a softer tyre, etc., etc. So that would be my kind of reading of the race in that respect. And admittedly, Lewis was putting in great lap times, but right up until the very end, that wasn't enough to catch him. Right? He could have gone half a second a lap slower, and only just caught him at the end still. So again, we could never know, obviously, but I'm
Yeah.
just pointing out it's the tire thing again, right? These tires are just very strange. You take too much out of them, you get to a cliff. That's how they've been designed, and that's what happened to Verstappen. He literally just drove into a
I mean,
lot of tires, and
yeah.
he
The,
needn't have done that.
no,
He
no.
could have said, "Oh, well, maybe I'll just settle for second place and I'll go at the pace the tires can keep going." Maybe he couldn't do that because he's not a good enough driver. Maybe maybe Lewis is the only person that can read the tyres that way, or Vettel perhaps is another person that reads tyres well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a way to read the race. Again, I think I think we have a slight disagreement. It's not that much, but yeah, I think it's fair what you said. It's both it's speculation, both from my side and your side. So yeah, I mean, regardless, the race was fucking boring. I just
Well, yeah, you took me back though to some Mansell days, right, in the mid '80s, right,
Yeah.
where Mansell would just go, "Oh bollocks, I'm
I
second place.
mean, the
That's it. I'm going to go in, put some soft on, and have a good old go
I mean, listen, the best thing we saw was the fight
at it."
for 12 and 13 with the Toro Rosso, right? I
Yeah,
mean, those guys made four corners side to side. It looked
yeah.
like they were on the how do you call the small track with the electric car, like no, not the
Oh,
match, but
bumper cars.
no, the one that you put
Oh,
uh, they're slot cars. You
slot
know?
cars.
Yeah,
Yeah, from
they look like slot cars, four corners, one, on the other. It was really insane. And that was the 12th and 13th position. Fuck me, sideways.
yeah.
Ricciardo tried to do something, and that car. I mean, that car is a dog. It's really bad.
Yeah, I've got to say as well. I mean, there was a couple of really great bits of driving in that race, but Max Verstappen did drive incredibly well. You could tell he's matured as a driver because he was keeping his nose clean and not running people off the circuit when he could have, right? And
Yeah,
maybe the old Max would have done. In fact, I'm pretty sure they would have done. But Max knew that he's not in a race with Lewis. There's no point in that kind of contact happening and ruining both races, right? So again, it's just incredibly mature race by Max. I think he's really come of age this year, and I'm so looking forward to next year when the rule designs will favour Red Bull. So yeah, I'm hugely excited by
yeah,
Verstappen coming forward, and again Leclerc. Well, he had some moments. I'll say that much. I thought he outdrove Sebastian at certain points again, so that's incredibly good. You say he was fuel saving at the
yeah,
end,
yeah.
and in which case, why the hell was Sebastian trying to run him off the road?
Oh,
That was a dirty overtake, right?
well, I mean, okay, that was really interesting because it's the same overtake uh, um, that Lewis made on Verstappen. It's
Yeah,
when the old dog has got to tell the young guy, listen, yeah, you're good, but yeah,
yeah. Just
I'm
remember, I've
right.
got the
Just
yeah,
remember who the fuck has got, the sharpest teeth around here. They had to do that.
yeah. Maybe you're right.
Yeah,
And again,
and by the way, I think that it's really interesting the fact that because I'm not really sure why Leclerc was forced to fuel save so much at the end. I suspect that it's because he was trying to drive over the problems of the car, so I don't know. They would probably have, not too much downforce or something like that. But probably the car was slipping way more than the other, or the gearbox ratio was a little bit different. They had to work something out. But it's really interesting that he had the problem and Vettel didn't. And this is
yeah,
something. Well, I mean, this is something that Leclerc, which is a smart guy, will have to watch and examine really closely because uh, that is the difference between a seasoned driver, someone which knows that the end and that the race ends, with the checkered flag,
Mm.
and the other guy which say, yeah, I'm going to win if I've got the best peak performances. That that is something that you learn,
Mm.
okay? Because I would say that it's really, and I'm making air quotes here, it's very easy to to have a peak performance, but it's really tough to have a consistent performance, which might not the peak, but at the end of the day is faster than the other one. And
Because,
this I think it would be a very good lesson for Leclerc, and I'm positive that the guy is smart enough to realize that, and I'm pretty sure that the first thing he did when he got out of the car, he asked for the data and the telemetry from the third car and his car, and say, okay, what the fuck did the guy did which I didn't, and he ended up without the problem that they had. So,
yeah, I mean, I would also put in that the wear characteristics of the engines can also make a difference in this respect as well. So maybe they need, you
maybe,
know,
yeah.
maybe they're running Leclerc's engine at Spa, in which case perhaps they were thinking, okay, well, we can swap the cars round, and that's not going to make any difference to our points. Leclerc can come behind Vettel because that suits the team, and we can save a bit of power for Spa.
Listen,
Which,
I mean, it's a wishful thinking from my part, because the race from Ferrari was so bad that at least I hope that they got some good data from that.
yeah, I didn't see it as a really critically bad race in terms.
Well, if you take a minute from the first
Not,
one,
not not
it
particularly bad. I mean, it was a bad race, but then it was always going to be one of the tougher races for them, like Singapore, right? Singapore's going to be a nightmare as well. But we're coming into a run of circuits which are going to suit Ferrari, and I would imagine they would want to keep the powder dry as possible for those races. So
it's a different expectation, and I know it sounds cheesy and whatever, but there are some teams which they cannot allow themselves to take beatings in a certain way. And the fact that it happens and everybody does, it's one thing. But there are some things which they just simply can't. I mean, remember what people told about what was that? Was last race when Lewis got 8 or something.
hmm
And oh yeah, no, it was yeah, the 125th race from Mercedes, which went really well. They fucking crucified those guys. They've been winning for 5 years. They've been put in a cross and shot with pellets.
hmm yeah,
Why? Because the fact of the matter is that when you are in that position, you are simply not allowed to do that. And it doesn't matter if you won 5 world championship. It doesn't matter all that stuff. That is something which simply cannot happen. So if you take 1.2 seconds on average in a lap, yeah, I mean you got third and fourth. So yeah, I mean it's a good thing. I mean if you look at overall, you did better than Mercedes and Red Bull, right? But still, it's not something that simply can happen to that guys.
yeah. And again, I mean, we don't know the internal decisions that
Yeah,
are going on, so there may be good reasons as to why some of
maybe.
these things happen. Um, and again, I felt it was a relatively good result for Ferrari, considering, you know,
Oh, at the end of the day, yes.
so I wouldn't be too disheartened. Obviously, they're too far out for the title now in terms of constructors, and so therefore, they should be focusing on single race results, and they don't seem to be doing that just yet. Otherwise, I think they would have thrown a shitload of money at the aero on their car, and actually decided to change philosophy for it. But that's just me.
I would
Maybe
say.
maybe they can't. Maybe they don't have enough
I
resources.
don't know. I think that they're giving themselves till they want to see what happens in Spa and Monza. Those are two tracks where they might do good. I think that in their heart, they're striving. I mean, the only way for them to kind of make this season not too shitty would be if Leclerc wins either at Spa or at Monza.
Yeah, well, either I don't think they're fastest to which driver
Yeah.
particularly. I mean, they
No, no.
might be
Yeah.
for the future, but Vettel's going to be with them next year,
No,
so
I know, but no, I'm just saying from the PR point of view. Okay, let me rephrase that.
yeah, no,
A victory for them in Spa or Monza would be, the thing which can make the current season less shitty. If Leclerc does, it would be even better for them. From a purely a PR point of view, it doesn't change anything technical. It is not a problem. But I'm just talking, from the perception point of view.
yeah. Okay, so I think you might be right. I mean, there's no way they haven't tried to develop a better front wing and better aero for the rest of their car, right? I mean, they can afford to at least think about design on it and develop designs for it. And whether they can afford to then put it into an air, model it, put it into an air tunnel, and then build the parts and then test them,
Yeah.
etc., is a completely different thing. Whether they want to spend that money now or whether they want to say, okay, look, with this car, we're gonna come second. We can't come first, so we may as well just put all of that money into next year's car.
It's
That
it
would be a more preferable
Yes,
way for the team to go, I think,
and
rather than trying to get some kind of glory this year if they don't have the stress, as you say, of potentially finishing behind Red Bull. Okay.
it's funny you said that because Binotto said that they're going to focus on downforce right now.
Mm.
So
Yeah, of course.
I agree with you that the sensible thing to do would be to say, oh, you know what, let's trash this season, let's try as much shit as we can, like Red Bull is doing, by the way,
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
next season. That would be the sensible approach. I can see there are only two problems with that. Well, actually, it's one problem. Uh, the problem is that I think that it would have been okay for them if Red Bull didn't want two races.
mm.
Because now they're not even the second force, they're becoming the third. So
Yeah,
they have got to reclaim at least the thing of being the second contenders.
yeah,
So this is, I think, why Binotto said no. Apparently, they're going to do stuff on this car in order to achieve at least one victory this year, and the reason is because again, it's my impression. It's because Red Bull won two fucking races.
yeah. I mean, again, if they have to guarantee seconds in
Yeah,
the constructors, right? Because that's worth an extra, however much, 40 million or some shit.
yeah,
So they've got to get seconds, right? Otherwise, they're just
right.
not worth the investment that they put into build a car. And as long as there's a struggle to get second, then they have to keep investing in the car to do that.
Oh, but more than second because I
So I don't doubt that they're going to design a car and start working on downforces for this year's car. But of course, in reality, all of that work is going to be put into next year's car anyway, right? They're going to have both things in mind. So again, what we're really talking about is developing a new front wing and a new body, right? To allow to give more front end downforce.
no, but I see.
Okay, they're just going to go down the philosophy of Red Bull and Mercedes. Yeah.
Well, I don't know what the fuck they're going to do, but the thing which is worrying and telling at the same time is that they said that they're going to make new development on this car, not thinking about the other car. And again, it is not well. It is what they declared, just after the race. And it's not a problem of them getting second because they will get second in the world championship in the manufacturer. They will do that, just because the fact that Gasly cannot score a point if he's going to save his life, right? So
Good
they
point.
yeah, so they have the money situation pretty much okay because what is really counting is the manufacturer. But again, the problem is the victories, and the problem right now is not Lewis winning, is motherfucking Verstappen winning twice. That is something which really hurt them, and say we got to do fucking something.
Yeah.
So anyway, man, I think it's time to wrap
Yeah,
it
yeah.
up.
Okay, so let me wrap up here. We've got a couple of comments in the side chat, so thank you very much. Wild Heart, always a pleasure. David Coulthard walks into a bar. Barman says, "Why the long face?" Have we got an answer for that? Do you have an answer for that? David Coulthard walks into a bar. The barman says, "Why the long face?" Can we have the punchline now, please?
The punchline, I don't know, but I think the punchline has got to do something with Camilla Parker Bowles. Because, I mean, I don't know, the two horses, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought, oh, well, it's the steroids, mate. What else do you
Oh,
think?
it's the step, yes. Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe if Wild Heart is listening, perhaps you could he could put in the punchline, and I'll read that out before the end of the show.
Yeah.
The second thing, of course, is to talk about. We have a gap now, don't we? We're on our summer break, so we won't be here for a few weeks now. And the next race is Spa. Thank you. Yep, Belgium Grand Prix on the first September.
Beginning of September.
Yeah, so we've got like 3 weeks at least before that. So there's going to be a wee breaky here, which will be good because Fabio won't have to put up with my bullshit. The punchline is that he has a long face.
Okay, yeah, that was easy. Fuck me, right?
That's a good one. Okay, so on that, so David Coulthard joke, the great Scot himself, David Coulthard, wishing you very well. And I just say, obviously, we're still awaiting the checks. So, have you received anything from Rich Energy?
Yeah, they sent me a car, but it sucked. So I don't know.
You just sent it back, yeah. Fair enough.
Well, no, the funny thing is that they delivered to me a car, okay, but Magnussen was driving it, so he managed to smash it in my front yard. I don't know how the fuck he managed to do that. It just smashed in my house. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Having made some disparaging remarks about them, I woke up with a dead deer's head in my bed.
Oh.
So there you go. So much for the stag.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you everybody, and good night. I say thank you again to Fabio. What a great show, and ciao very much.
Ciao.